Hey, what's going on, everyone? Good evening. My name is Chris Everett. Some of you may have remembered me from my last video or an assignment a few weeks ago. I also go by CJ as well, so whatever you prefer, balls in your court on that one. So today or tonight, I want to go over a few things when it comes to renting and owning a property. So a few key components I want to go over are going to be so what they actually teach you growing up and how that affects you down the road. Or the things you need to know when it comes to the specific areas, the true cost of renting versus buying a home overall, and then which is a smarter choice in today's economy. So I want to touch base first on the true cost of renting versus buying a home. So we'll start off with, let's go off with buying a home first. So the true cost of buying a home up front obviously is a little bit more significant or very significant rather than renting an apartment or a house itself. So when it comes to buying a home, you have to have at least usually around 15 to 20%, unless other cases you have a VA loan, which is pretty much just nothing up front, which is obviously super good. But for the majority of people, it's going to be about 15 to 20%. And then especially with buying a home, there's a lot of hidden costs that people don't realize. So besides just your mortgage and your utilities, which you would have to pay renting, there's obviously your upkeep of your home, your property taxes, your school taxes, your state taxes, whatever the case may be in that end. So besides the taxes and all that, you have to pay for the upkeep as well. So the maintenance, if you have to get your roof done, the gardening, the landscaping, if you have any issues with your basement, the paint, the plumbing, the whole nine there. So there's a lot more that goes into it overall than in regards to just renting, which would just be your utilities and whatever the cost of rent is that the owner is charging you at the time. So in regards to like hidden areas when it comes to renting, like I said, it's just the basic two you have to pay, and then maybe a pet fee if you have any animals or they allow animals. But over the course of time, when you're owning, you're locked into that mortgage. It might go up depending on your property taxes, but when it comes to renting, especially with the economy now, it definitely rises over time. We've seen that significantly throughout the years, especially in 2025. It's pretty much at an all-time high. So whatever you started off as, obviously each year, the owner, whoever runs the property is going to either be nice and keep it that way, but most likely it's going to get raised hundreds of dollars, especially over the course of a few years of being there or anywhere else that you're looking. So a big key component there is just the hidden costs. Definitely something to be worried about, whether it comes from owning or buying. So when it comes to what you learned or growing up, obviously there's a lot that goes into owning a home, whether that be taxes, your credit score, your income, your savings that you have. They check all that kind of things, all that kind of information before you even approve to buying a home and renting. Obviously in today's economy, you have to show, they have to do a background check usually, which is normal, but sometimes people want 3 to 4 times the amount of income, which is pretty much the same thing as kind of owning a home, but it's very, very steep, especially with renting, because obviously you usually have more income when it comes to owning a home. Let's see. The biggest thing to take away from renting and owning is obviously what you want to do short-term or long-term. So obviously when it comes to renting, obviously I've known people, I've seen people that long-term rent, which there's nothing wrong with that. But obviously you're paying money towards someone else to invest in that property. And when it comes to renting, you can obviously, be short-term, long-term. It's kind of, you can pretty much get out of it whenever you want, depending on the lease agreement, but it's never obviously long-term where it has to be 5-10 years. When it comes to owning a home, you're pretty much locked in there for a good chunk of time. Obviously you can sell your property, but there's a lot that goes into that, the process, the inspections, trying to find a buyer, the payout you have to do for people that sell the home, things of that nature. So when it comes to mortgages, usually 15, 20, 30 years, if not more, depending on what you have. So it's definitely a long-term investment. And when it comes to renting and owning, obviously it all depends on your lifestyle, your finances, and what your goals are later in life. So when it comes to owning, obviously that's a lifelong investment, or pretty much majority of your life investment. So pretty much you want to pay to get to that point where down the road you can turn it into what is a good way to put this? It could be a financial freedom for you because you can rent it out, turn it into a property where you can have that make money for you. And then when it comes to renting, it's usually, you're just doing whatever you have to do on the side. You want to go on vacation. There's a lot more leeway when it comes to that, depending on obviously your financial situation. So there's a lot that goes into it, especially when it comes to those three factors when it comes to renting and owning. And just to put things into perspective for you, I'll give you a few, obviously, let's see where they are. So I'm going to give you some information and statistics on renting versus owning, just a few that I've seen over the course of the few weeks here. So currently in 2025, 63% of adults own and 28% rent. So obviously there's a little gap in there. Obviously not everyone rents or owns or have a place. So unfortunately that obviously that doesn't add up to 100% for those obvious reasons. So biggest thing is when it comes to owning a home and what people look forward to down the road after a few years of owning, maybe a little bit longer depending on the economy itself, is a home equity. So home equity is obviously stating your financial gain of owning that home. So let's just say you paid $100,000 for it. If you got 2 years on the road, it's worth 110, you have $10,000 in equity. So home equity currently is 50 to 70% of net worth. Renting cost renting a property or a home, renting costs about 21% less per month, which obviously 12 months in a year, it definitely adds up depending on your financial situation. Like I said, that's pretty much the biggest thing that comes with renting or owning, or just the mindset if you just want some free time or just want some stability down the road. So renting is cheaper in about 48 of 50 states. I believe it is Pittsburgh is one of them, and I think maybe Philadelphia is the two locations where it's flip-flopped. And then it's about 82% of an income gap, which is stating basically you pretty much, I think the statistic was average homeowners make about low 100,000+ income when it comes to finances, and then when renting, you're usually making under about 50 or 60K, which is still good money, but the economy is definitely it's been a doozy lately the past few years. But those are just some tips and tricks about renting and owning and some statistics that come with it. So hopefully this video gave you some information on later down the road whether you're renting or going to be owning, and hopefully has you make a better decision when it comes to that point. But good luck to everybody. Very nice to talk to you, and I hope everyone has a great day.